Hello, I'm Jay, owner of Volunteer Audio in Oliver Springs, Tennessee, and in this video I'm going to show you how to remove the front speaker pods on a 2014 to 2023 Electra Glide, Street Glide, or Ultra Limited. We're going to do this so we can replace those terrible factory speakers with a much better upgraded speaker. So we're going to start with the fairing removed. We've already done a video showing you how to take your fairing off. We've already removed the radio. We've already made a video showing you how to remove the radio. And here's a list of the tools we're going to need to continue forward from this point. So we're going to be using a 3/16 Allen head tool. We're also going to need an 11mm socket with a short extension and a ratchet. We're also going to be using a T25 Torx driver. So starting this video, we're going to start at the beginning, which the radio's out, the fairing's off, and we're removing the plastic tray that's underneath the stock radio. I want you first to unplug each one of the electrical connectors on the end of the tray like you see here. We're also going to unplug each one of the plugins that are underneath it. And we're going to do this just to make sure that we don't put too much stress on the wiring as we remove it and take it out. So now we have that out of the way. You have a lot better view of these 11mm bolts that are going from the inside of the framework to the outer speaker pod. There are 3 of these on each side. I want you to remove all 3 and definitely put all 3 back in. This is a crucial part of the framework of your fairing. If they are left out, there will be a tremendous amount of vibration on the outer ends of the fairing. As you see, an 11mm, we do have an extension, and we have a ratchet. Now we're using a wobble extension. If you had a shorter extension, you can actually get straight in on it without the wobble. So there's 3 of these on each side of the pod. All right, so let's go to the other side. You'll see we're taking the next 3 out. These are the 3 hardest bolts to get to. Removing that radio and that plastic tray makes this so much easier than trying to get up underneath it when you can't see it and remove them. Now if you drop a bolt, I'll tell you I've done it many, many times, it's going to fall into the top of those forks and it's going to be very, very difficult to see, so you may need a magnet to retrieve the bolt if you drop it as well. If you get to this point and you see any of these bolts are missing, definitely go to your local hardware store, match up the bolts, and put them back in. It definitely is so much better when all of those are in and secured. So we've got our last bolt coming out here, 3 on each side. We use our panel tool and just remove the last electrical connector. And now we have our 3/16 Allen tool. We're going to remove 3 Allen heads from the perimeter of the pod. Now as you get to your last one, understand there's nothing else holding the pod in. You're going to want to take your hand and hold the pod and make sure it doesn't just fall to the floor. So here's our last one. And you'll see as we get it out a little bit, we will hold the pod and make sure it doesn't fall off here. We're just holding some pressure on it. Let's go to our bench and change out our speaker. Keep in mind that the larger connector, the black connector, is the negative, and the clear, smaller connector is the positive. We're going to take a pair of needle nose pliers. We're going to crimp the end of that a little tighter just to make sure it stays connected to our speaker very well. As you see the black one there, that larger one's the negative, small clear one is the positive. We're going to put it on the right place on our speaker. Now we're going to drop our speaker back in. Definitely put it in where it's oriented right, where the Hertz logo is facing the correct way, your speaker's not upside down, and put each of those factory screws back in. Now if you were doing Hertz speakers off film, off scene, we removed the little descant pack out of the inside of the speaker. There's always one in the package. Take that out so you don't have any weird rattles. It's just there to keep that speaker good and dry during shipping. These are weatherproof speakers though, so if you do get water on the front, don't worry. They're made for a Harley and you're not going to have any problems. So we've started all 4 screws. Now we're going back and we're going to tighten each one of them all the way up, being careful not to strip them out in the plastic. All right, we took our T25, we got all that put back in. Time to put the pod back on the bike. We're going to start with our 3/16 Allen heads. So we're going to put each one of these in and tighten those up. So there were 3 of these around the perimeter. That's number 1. We have one also on the lower portion here. And there's another one right up about where the mirror was factory. Put that one in as well. Now these can only go in one way. There's actually like a recess they fall into, so you can go ahead and tighten these all the way down. All right, so we're going to take our 3 11mm bolts, start them in the holes by hand, and intake. Let's continue going on here. Let's get the upper ones in there. Again, if you dropped one of these bolts and you're having a hard time finding it, look down right at the top of the forks. There's a hole they fall in that gets where you really can't see it, but a magnet can be dropped in there and pull them out. So we're going to take our 11 on our extension with our little wobble socket. We're going to tighten each one of these up now that they're all 3 started. Make sure you get these good and tight because they do want to vibrate out if you don't get them tight. All right, so we're going to repeat the process on the other side, put in all 3 bolts back in there as well. All right, now that all our bolts are back in our speaker pods, it's time to put our plate back in. So be real careful, watch this wiring as you go. There's 2 little plastic ears on the end that actually line up with a couple holes in the frame. You're going to push right into those holes. Once they're there, now you're going to put your plastic push clips back in place, locking it in. Now we're going to plug each one of our harnesses back in. Make sure they all go back where they were originally. Anything that was unplugged, any clips that were unclipped. All right, so now at this point, we're ready to put our radio back in place. So continue on, watch our next video on how to install your radio. And then after that, we'll show you how to put the amp in and even how to put the fairing back on. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it helped you. I hope it made things easier. I hope it encouraged you to keep on going. And thank you so much for watching. As always, God bless.